Okay, so the CCV1 form, you know the details already, maybe some parts of it. Well, now we're joined by Jide Ajani, who is the SA on Media and Publicity to the Governor of Oyo State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Morning.
Well, you know, this asset declaration, much as, yes, it's getting a lot of reaction out there, but those who, the APC, you've seen the response already. They are asking, no, it's not enough to do that.
There's no where it came from.
Where did that come from?
Okay.
That's what they say about that.
Yeah, let me start by saying, you know, the history of the declaration was actually commenced during the debate campaign period. And he just said it, the governor just said it, that he pays in excess of 1 billion as tax to the federal government. And people said, what? It can't be true. Where is that going to come from? What are you doing? And I said, okay, don't hold your peace. When I get elected, I will declare my assets and I'll make it public. So you can then see and cross-check. And if you like, go and verify the figures that I would have declared. That is the history of how we got to that point. Yes, some people will ask, what is he doing? What is he into? And I was cracking a joke before I came on screen. And I said, well, if channels would not mind, we could do a free commercial for the company, which I'm sure you would not mind. He's into oil and gas. He's an engineer.
I would not mind the free commercial. Did I hear that right?
No, he set up his own engineering firm, Makinde Group, Engineering and Technical Services Limited, solely indigenous. And it worked in Shell. He did the service there. And as God will have it, the Muslims, they have this phrase they use in the Quran, Wabillahi Tawfiq. What it means is, may God take us to a place of good luck. Let's jam our own good luck. Let's be happy and the goodness that God has divined for us. And he had fabricated some API measuring instruments. API is American Petroleum Institute standards and they patented the rights. And as we speak, he earns royalties almost on a daily basis from all over the world in Forex. Apart from that, the company he runs, the Makinde Group, they have subsidiaries. They have Makinde Group, Makinde Oil and Gas Limited, Makinde Power Systems Limited, and they are into so many things. And what I have here, for instance, is some of the jobs the company has done. There's even one that has been signed for 20 years, and it's going to be paid for. And when you look at the offices and the staff strength, there are 9 offices. There's one in Texas, there's one in South Africa, there are 7 here in Nigeria. And these are offices not in Okokomaiko or Abuli-Egba axis. Most of them, the offices are in Lekki. And you have some in Port Harcourt too. So here is an individual who has fulfilled a campaign promise. And one thing we have to really try to avoid is falling into the trap of weaponizing poverty as a standard way of doing things. We've had people who've gone into offices where they could peddle influence. But rather than serve the people, what you end up having is people trying to aggrandize for themselves. So if you have somebody who has worked hard, has made money, has been a philanthropist, and has decided to come and serve the people using instrumentality of the office of the governor of Oyo State, I think people should commend him for what he has done.
Well, the reaction, as you've seen on social media, people have spoken on this particular matter, but you know, he also encouraged others to do the same.
Yeah.
Now, let's see if we can categorize some of those others. The deputy governor.
Yeah.
Many are looking to see if they'll follow suit.
Now, let me help you.
The age, they're looking if they'll follow suit.
I know where you are going. You are trying to ask me the question directly and I would answer. Some of us are actually, we've engaged the process of doing the same thing. But you know, as appointees, you just get the announcement and then, okay, with immediate effect. So what the process would entail is that, as at the time before your appointment, whatever you had, cash at hand, assets,
no anticipatory declaration.
No, if you do that, then you fall into what some people had fallen into in times past. You can't declare in anticipatory declaration simply suggests that you are going in there to steal and then make up the margins. That's not acceptable. You cannot, you can't,
is it necessarily
Jimba, what is it?
Is it necessarily to go there and steal or to work and then earn?
No, it's based on the question he asked. If you do anticipatory declaration, it's like the pumping machine we discussed before we came on here. If you had declared it before you bought it as being your property, that is illegal. That's illegal. So when you declare in anticipatory form, what you are doing, no, leave Jimba now. What you are doing is to say that, okay, no, in the Senate of Okadigbo, that was part of the crimes that they laid before him, and something was said he had to be removed. And to be honest now, to be sincere, I think it's high time Nigerians begin to appreciate people who keep their promises and people who, by dint of hard work, have been able to make money. If we keep weaponizing poverty, if we keep looking down on people who have worked hard to make their money or their wealth, we will not be encouraging others to do the same. And I can tell you, for what he has done now, how many people would be so bold enough, honest and sincere enough, to appear and go to the Code of Conduct Bureau, drop the form, collect the photocopy, and then make it public?
Okay, now, let me quickly ask you this, Mr. Ajani. Some would, say that, okay, well, this is like saying, look, this is what I have already. So they could also say that this declaration is a weapon to say, don't ask me any questions, whatever I do. Does that make him less accountable or more accountable to the people?
If you have a good heart, you have a good heart. He said he would set up the Oyo State version of the EFCC. He has already signed a bill that is now before the House of Assembly of Oyo State. And the good members there will discuss it, and whatever they want to do with it, then approve, and it becomes law. If he had any negative or ulterior motives, ab initio, he won't be bold enough or sincere enough to say would set up this anti-graft agent. And it's just to send a signal to everybody around him that, look, we have come to serve the good people of Oyo State and not to amass.
That's for the appointees.
Okay. Even including himself, because he said he's ready, and he has said it.
Okay.
He's willing to waive his immunity. If anybody as much as find anything that suggests that his hands or fingers have been found in the till.
One of the things that we all know, which I'm sure you also know, is that it's not just the appointees that are going to get the job done, not just the governor that is going to get the job done. The civil service system is the engine that the governor is going to use. So how does that percolate to other tiers of authority in the states to ensure that the good governance that is intended, really gets to the people?
Good. At one of our meetings, he told the civil servants, he said, look, the PAMSEC specifically, the political appointees who are going to be the commissioners are going to be there to do their own bit. But you, as civil servants, as accounting officers of the ministries, must guard your loins so that no issue of accountability in the discount sphere will be brought before the public as being part of what you've done. So the civil service too is keying into that paradigm. You said it rightly. You can't, there's nobody called a foreman. It's just a title. No, every man is one. So the civil service too is being keyed into this philosophy of accountability. And I think, you'll be surprised that most of the noise in quotes is from outside Oyo State. People of Oyo State are happy. They are glad that their governor has kept his promise. And they are looking forward to, at least for once, see that change.
Well,
that he has promised.
we've had some, there are some members of the party who have spoken and commending him about some of these actions. So when he says he expects others to follow suit, did you think that if some people interpret it as such that they expect to see other PDP governors declare their assets, would that be out of place if they follow suit and do this? Or would they say, this man is not a good party man, why are you putting us under pressure?
No, I think, you see, some 2 years or so ago, PDP came out and said it was apologizing for the sins of the 16 years. If somebody makes a good suggestion, I think it's meet and proper for others to try and key into that suggestion, insofar as it will advance the cause of good governance. That should be the bigger picture. And unfortunately for the APC people that are talking, there's this American economist, Charles Kindleberger. He said, nothing creates depression in a man's mind than to see a fellow human being making progress. I mean, Jimba just got a Range Rover. Jimba will look at him and say, oh, good, but why can't I be the one who just bought that Range Rover? It's not as if he's wishing you ill, but the first reaction naturally is, oh, why him? He's making it. So those who are complaining, which you asked earlier about, why would they just make declaration? Do we know where the money is from? If I begin to reel out what the companies are into,
then you have to play commercials.
Sincerity, if there is sincerity of purpose, I'm just thinking about the reactions that have trailed this already. Because if he has come out to say that, for instance, he's setting up a state version of the EFCC and is ready to relinquish his immunity, to waive his immunity, and then one wonders how that is going to sit well, because the Constitution still covers him.
Sit well with who?
With him, and
no,
even the generality of the people. He cannot waive his own immunity.
That's a statement that goes further to validate the intention that, look, I don't have skeletons. I don't have anything to hide. In the event that anything is seen or heard or noticed or observed regarding infractions of corrupt practices regarding my person, I will go to the extent of even relinquishing the so-called immunity, just to show that I'm ready to face.
But is this not an all too familiar line? Because a lot of people consider the president, Muhammadu Buhari, as incorruptible and a man of high integrity. As a matter of fact, it is on that integrity that they rode on to get him into power. Wouldn't it be a misplaced notion, considering that even in the same administration of the president, Muhammadu Buhari, we still have people who have perpetrated crime and criminality and corruption against the state, but then the president is a clean man? Couldn't that be the situation that will play out eventually in your state?
His Excellency, the governor of your state, he has the benefit of a tabula rasa. It's a clean slate. I'm happy you brought up the issue you brought up. Some people told us in 2015 that they would declare their assets. They were going to run a corrupt-free system. But as you've just pointed out, we know what has gone down. You know what happened with the Senator of the Federal Republic, whose case was dropped pursuant to ensuring that somebody else becomes the Senate president. Now, if somebody is coming as a starter and he says, this is the way I want to go, he has the benefit of allowing him to commit the infraction or display acts of insincerity before you can begin to hold him down. And what the man has simply done, in good faith, is to go to the CCB, pick the photocopy of the form he had filled on the 28th of May before swearing in, and said, people, this is it. And the way the process goes is that that form that he has filled as the CCB is going to be verified by the CCB discreetly. It's going to be done by the CCB discreetly. So Serap has come out to say, if you want to demonstrate how genuinely clean you are, invite us as independent assessors. We'll come and verify. But the law doesn't. It's the CCB. If CCB now decides to engage a private consultant to help it verify, there's nothing entirely.
So speaking about transparency, pardon me, I'm just, what structures, because I mean, that's the principle he wants to operate by, to be transparent. How or what has he put in place, or what does he plan to put in place in your state? Start with the civil service so that people can deal transparently with the civil service.
Yeah, thank you very much. At the risk of preempting what the members of the House Assembly will be doing with the bill he has sent, once the bill becomes law and the governor assents to it, those details will be properly spelled out. But if I come in and begin to give you the ABCs of that bill, I'll be preempting the assignment of the assembly members. Okay. And with due respect, I want them to be able to do their job without any...
While we are with that, the state capital is in Ibadan, like a corner of Oyo State. The distance between Ibadan and Oyo town is about 30 minutes. Further down to Ubomosho is maybe another 30 minutes or thereabout. Now, what kind of structure is in place? And that's just one distance. There is Isheni, there are a number of other places like that. What kind of structure is in place, or are we expecting to be in place, to ensure that this whole accountability system actually trickles down? In the light of the fact that, of what is on as far as local governments are concerned now. Since, the state government is supposed to play some kind of supervisory role on the local government chairman that we do not have in Oyo State now.
Thank you for that question. You see, the problem we've always had in Nigeria is leadership by example. There's nothing you can preach to an individual without you being seen as a living example of that. The best way to understand how depraved a society is to look at the roads, not the physical infrastructure now. What happens on the roads? The driving culture, the sanitation culture. If you see people who behave in some ways that are totally deplorable in the open, then you can begin to imagine what they will do when they are in the private confines of their offices, when the doors are shut. Now, that is where the leadership comes in. If you begin your engagement by setting the right type of examples for your followers, and even those who are commissioners, aides, and assistants are also seen to be following suit, it would trickle down. And based on what Jimba asked earlier about the president, you see, there's a school of thought that believes that the president, consciously or subconsciously, mismanaged the goodwill that brought him to power in 2015. And that is why, unfortunately, now we have a type of mess we have on our hands. Not because he, as an individual, is the one committing all those infractions, but because he, as an individual, allowed politics to begin to shape some of his own decisions, such that things that you would have thought were totally abhorrent to Mr. President have been allowed to pass.
I remember jumping, there's also a school of thought which think that the governor may fall into the same trap of mismanaging the goodwill because the way the handling of the NURTW, the local governments, people thought, well, isn't this hasty on the part of the governor? Shouldn't there have been other ways to approach it rather than just announce that outright drastic action as something to describe?
On the local government, my principal himself had said the matter is still in court now. But for the NURTW, which also goes to show that when you live and lead by examples, people are bound to key into it. What happened was that some of the leaders of the union thought, because of the relationships they had with some leaders in Oyo State, who are also seen to be close to some people in government, they could begin to change the paradigm and begin to take over parks. And people were beginning to sell the story that, no, we have some people's backing. And the only way the governor could stamp his feet of authority on the ground was to show that I would not take this. If he had allowed what was going on in that first week to continue for another 2 days, there would be a total breakdown of law and order in the state. And based on security reports too, the best option open to him was to send the right signal that, look, you guys, vandalism, thuggery, I would not stand for that. That was why I took that decision immediately. Right. And that saved lots of lives.
All right, we'll come back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, in conclusion, Jide, what is the governor thinking about? Because, look, political patronage is still huge. Politicians take this very seriously. How is he integrating his private sector mindset and approach within the public sector?
No, he's actually resigned from his company, which he had done.
Yeah.
Even in the way of appointments, for instance, the caliber of people he has been able to assemble for now, you would begin to give him thumbs up that he actually means well and he wants to succeed. The DGD process is a lady. The SSG was poached from Shell. And you know, it will take something for you to leave Shell to want to work in a state government or something. Now, what he's looking to doing is to instill that same private sector instincts and mentality in the civil service, such that at the end of the day, when the civil servants key into that paradigm, it will work well for the government and the people of the state.
If you say you can't put new wine in old wine scheme and things like that, how is that going to work with the civil service? Because, I mean, is there maybe one or two sackings?
Timberland, people evolve.
So we shouldn't expect any...
There could be a shock therapy. Look, let me tell you. In 1804,
what can be shock
Vice
therapy
President
to sack some people?
I've not said that. In 1804, Aaron Burr was the Vice President of America. Alexander Hamilton was the Treasury Secretary. They've always had their teeth. And in those days, the only way you settle scores is to go for a gun duel. Burr fatally wounded Hamilton. And at some point, he himself had to flee the US to Paris or something. Now, the point I'm trying to make is the same United States of America, where a gun duel was the standard practice to settle certain scores. You can't do that now. If you do that now, it's murder. So people evolve, things evolve. Once you set the machinery in motion, and people see where you are going, and it's about a bigger picture.
But you know,
governance.
Ekiti, former governor, current governor, while he was first-time governor, he thought people were going to evolve. He tried to ensure that civil service, do some exams. So Edo State as well, do some exams. They always kick against these things.
The Ekiti man has come back now, and he has engaged a new paradigm of setting the minds of the civil servants and the people of the state in the direction that he wants. It's about understanding your people. And for my governor, he didn't just start relating with the people because of politics. He was even a philanthropist, and he done some things long before the issue of politics even started.
Sacking,
so,
in other words.
Well, maybe Chamberlain should go and contest and be governor or local government chairman, then sack people first, then see what will happen.
Well, you know, the difficulty, I think that Chamberlain is trying to point out is that the private sector system is quite different from the public sector system.
Sure.
And in the public sector, you're dealing basically with the civil servants and the kinds of practices that we hear reports about now and then. For instance, say, how will he deal with issues of inflated figures for finances, things like that? How will he do it?
At the end of the day, once people key into his paradigm of leadership, things will change. Let me give you an example. When he stopped the payment of the 3,000 levy for school kids, people said, no, it was too sudden. It's populist. Is this? Where would he get the money to fund it? And he said, look, he was able to detect that about 1.5 billion was stashed somewhere in private account by the outgone administration. That alone takes care of the cost of that 3,000 for the first 1 year. And he said, if you block all the leakages in the structure, you can save more money and then spend these same funds for the goodness of the people of your state.
All right, we'll be looking to see how that eventually turns out. If
it will turn out well, I can assure you, by God's grace.
We'll keep tabs on that.
Please do.
And we'll wish them all the best.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. Aide Ajani is the special advisor to the governor, or your state governor, on media and publicity. Well, that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We will see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I'm Gimba Umar.
I'm Ayo Makinde.
And I'm Alkwe Yusuf. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.